Perfect, perfect. All right, we have a great group together here. If you joined if you joined our first practice and progress session in November, um, you will notice that the format now is different. Now we have a meeting so we can see faces and we can interact more directly with each other. We hope that we have some opportunities to share between peers and get some good insights from other organizations as well as the whole group during the session. So let me share my screen to get started. Today, we are going to reflect and practice using the capacities section of your pre-report, right? And again, we're calling these sessions practice and progress because obviously developing the skill to using your insights in your pre-report requires a lot of practice, and we've learned over time that it requires a lot of sharing between peers to learn what others are doing, how others are interpreting and using insights from your reports. And so to get a sense first of where are you in your learning journey, specifically with Hello Insight, we wanted to start with a quick poll. And so we want to know whether your organization is using Hello Insight for the first time, first year using Hello Insight or not, and whether you have ever reflected on the capacity section of the pre-report with your team, with your colleagues, etc. So I'm going to launch it very quickly, and hopefully we get some good answers. Answers are coming in. Ooh, very fun. So just so you know, in the last session, we talked about the experiences section in your pre-report. We had a lot of people who were longtime Hello Insight members, and had not had a lot of opportunities to reflect on the experiences section with their team. This time around, apparently, we have a lot of recurring members. So again, we have a lot of people who have been with us for a long time, and a lot of people who have had the experience of reflecting with their team on the stuff, which is great. So we're gonna leverage their experience, and we're gonna leverage new insights to share ways of interpreting, ways of using this data, these insights to improve your program, especially while the program is in action. So I'm gonna close the poll right now, and we'll move on to the agenda. Today, we're gonna quickly review the capacity section in our pre-report. We're going to practice, okay? And that practice will involve some individual reflection, some peer sharing, and then we'll share out with the whole group. And then to end the session, I'm gonna share a call to action. And it's basically very similar to the one in our previous session. So those who have done it, I would love to get some thoughts on how it went. And those who haven't done it, I invite you to follow this call to action and get some conversation started with your team. Before we get into the capacity section, we wanted to remind you of the purpose of the pre-report. Okay, we collect data at the beginning of the program, and we create a pre-report for you. And why do we do that? Because we want you to reflect on where your young people are in their learning journey, right, in their development, and what strategies you might use to boost their growth, right? So again, the pre-report is not a reflection of your program's curriculum or your impact yet, right? It's giving you an indication of where young people are when they're beginning their journey with you. In the capacity section of the report, as most of you know, is focused on SEL capacities, or the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that young people develop in your programs and in life in general. And these are the skills that we know are going to help them thrive in the future. So if you've been with us with Hello Insight, you know that you have collected data at the beginning of the program, right? And so We collect data at pre or at the beginning of the program and at post or the end, because we want to know how much people change from pre to post, or how much people change during the span of the program, right? Now, why do we show you a capacity section in the pre-report if the pre-report is not a reflection of your impact, right? We create this section and we show it to you because we want you to identify young people's assets and opportunities for growth at the beginning of the program, right? So that you can reflect on how you might tackle these opportunities for growth and leverage these assets to boost your impact. Okay, so again, we show you this information at pre because we want you to reflect on how you might integrate opportunities for growth and assets in your daily activities to boost your impact. In the capacities section of your report, you will see a version of this table. The table will change. It depends on the tools that your organization is using. Okay, but the number of capacities will change, the names will change, but the general logic stays the same, right? We show you capacities, then we show you the number or percent of young people who show emerging or advanced levels on each capacity, right? That's the general logic and it doesn't really change across tools. And when we talk about emerging young people, we talk about young people with an emerging capacity score below Hello Insight's national average. Okay. This is a distinction that is sort of artificial, right? We're basically classifying people under or below the average just so that we can recognize what are the groups of young people and then what are the capacities where we see most room for improvement, right? And what are the opportunities for growth that you can tackle in your program. And then young people with an advanced capacity score, they have scores that are above the average, right? Again, a very rough artificial distinction that we're creating that is helpful to identify what assets young people are bringing into your program, into the experience that you're creating. And so that is overall the capacities section of your report. But now the question is, well, how do we use it in practice, right? So before going into the practice that we have for today, I wanted to pause here and ask you if there are any questions so far. Is there anyone here who has trouble getting what's the purpose or what's the content that we're presenting in this section of the pre-report? And if you do, it's okay. It takes a long time, I would say years, to really get the logic behind a lot of data we present, because it requires practice, it requires a lot of repetition, it requires a lot of experience. So feel free to ask any questions, no matter how basic you might feel the question is. We're here for you and happy to receive any questions. So you can feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. Catherine, I don't know if we have any questions so far there.
Not that I've seen.
No.
And my main question for this meeting, thank you.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi everybody. Is it okay to just ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My main, I'm sure you're going to go over it, but main question for the meeting is to understand how to actually implement these changes into the program. Our program is only 9 weeks long, so it's hard to, we have gone through like looking at the capacities, but then how do we implement, like you said, leverage the strengths and tackle the challenges? So that's my biggest question. I'm sure you'll go over it.
And it's the biggest question for everybody.
Yeah.
There's a big gap between a table with numbers and your actions on a day-to-day basis, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's a great question. And I'm sure, everybody else has the same question. Anybody else has a question, a comment, anything they want to add before we get into the exercise? Hello. Hi, Junaida.
Hi. Um, as you know, fairly new to the Hello Insight world. I'm still kind of processing what you just said about the emerging and advanced. In our reports, we continually get mostly emerging, some advanced, and then the advanced obviously changes, but can you explain just a little bit more the thought process behind the emerging category?
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal of creating these two categories, right, is to identify opportunities for action, basically, right? And so it's not like there's emerging young people walking down the streets, right? It's not a real thing. It's a category we use for thinking about strategies, right? And so emerging, we have some analytics that allow us to identify those people who are showing an emerging or an initial level of a capacity, right? And so some young people are starting to show some of the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that you would expect in, let's say, social skills, right? And that really depends on, let's say, their age group, right? So young people in elementary school, you will see that, on average, show certain behaviors related to social skills. And some of them are a little bit behind and they need more practice, they need more opportunities to exercise some of those skills, right? And so what we're trying to highlight with the emerging category is that there are some young people in your group, in your age group specifically, that need more opportunities to practice and develop certain skills. Does that make any sense?
Sorry, I gave you a thumbs up. Yes.
Yeah, perfect, wonderful. And with advanced, it's the same, right? We're trying to highlight that there are young people in your specific age group that you're tackling that could bring a lot of rich skills and competencies that you can, use during activities or during any of your strategies. Because as we always say, young people are not just participants in your program, they are, fully committed sometimes, and they are active voices in your program. They could really contribute a ton to the experience that you're trying to create, right? They're not just passive recipients of your programming, right? And you all know that. I mean, yeah, there's a reason why you all are working in this field and you're in this room. There was another question.
One thing for
Yes,
Junaida, what helped me understand emerging is, I think it was Crystal at Hello Insight told me that Hello Insight took did a lot of surveys, took data for like the national average. They got kind of a benchmark line. And then all the people who are in emerging their score was below that national average. So that, I don't know if that helps. That helped me kind of understand is that correct? Would you say
it is,
Diego? Okay.
It is correct. So that line that may go back to this line. This line was created by collecting a lot of data by all of you and other organizations that have been high members in the past, right? And so that line that looks kind of silly sometimes, right? Because it's hard to categorize people in one bucket, right? Because people, we are very complex, and it's hard to put them in a single bucket. But when you have a lot of data, you can create these lines that help you think, right? These are tools to think about what strategies you might use. So yes, we used a lot of data to create that line. I think Jackie had a question, but maybe that question was answered already.
No. Hi. Wait.
Hi.
Oh, here I am. Yeah, my question is, where do you get the capacities report? The section, where is that?
Oh, great question. And I'm going to show you in a second when we go into the
Oh, okay.
practice section. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I will show you how to get there. So given that we are already there, let's go to the practice that we have planned for today. So we're gonna open a pre-report. And for those of you who are new members or haven't really interacted a lot with our reports, I'm gonna show you how to load a report in the app. If you do have pre-reports of your own organization, please open one of them. One that maybe you're reflecting on right now, or maybe a report that's relevant to something that you need to think about with your team, something related to professional development, or maybe there's a report that you need to write for a funder. So open a report that's relevant to you if you have one. If not, I'm going to show you how to open a report on your own. And we also have a link for those of you who don't have reports yet that you can look at a fake report, but will be helpful for the exercise. Once you have that report open, we're gonna have you reflect on the capacity section, and we're gonna have you reflect for 5 minutes on your own, take some notes, and then we're gonna break this group up into small groups, chat a little bit, and discuss what you're thinking, what you're identifying in the table. Maybe those of you who have done this in the past can share how they do it in teams or individually. And then we're going to come back to the larger room, and we're going to share what things we're noticing in your own reports or in the fake report if you're using a fake report. Okay, so where are we going to leave our thoughts? There's a Padlet here, and we're going to send you a link to the Padlet where the instructions are written right here in the first column. So the step one is go into the report and identify the capacity with the largest % of emerging young people. And so if you are in your report, in your pre-report, you're going to go to the table and try to identify the capacity with the largest % of emerging young people, the largest %, okay? And then you're going to do the same for advanced. You're going to identify the capacity with the largest % of advanced young people. So identify two capacities, one with the largest % of emerging, one with the largest % of advanced. Then I want you to think about these two questions and type a few thoughts, right? So for the capacity with the largest % of emerging, I want you to think about this. What are some of the current activities or strategies in your program that promote this capacity? Okay, so if it's social skills, I want you to think about the very specific activities or strategies in your program that are meant to intentionally promote social skills, okay? And when you think about the capacity with the largest % of advanced, I want you to think about how can we build upon this asset to boost our program activities, right? And so if it's, let's say, contribution, your young people are showing large levels of contribution, or a large % of advanced young people in contribution, you can think about how can you build upon this, right? Based on the definitions you see here. So if you click right there, you're going to see a quick definition, and you can reflect on that for a second. I see that we have some people in the Padlet. Catherine, do we need anything else for this activity, or are we good so far?
Looking good so far.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So again, I'm going to ask you to reflect individually first and think about these two questions. Identify the two capacities that I asked you to identify. Think about the two questions, type some thoughts, and then we're going to break into small groups. And I want you to share what you're identifying. You can also share questions, concerns, things that are not really easy to digest, okay? And then we're going to come back to a larger group and share those thoughts as a group. Anybody has any questions before we start the reflection?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have another question. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Yes.
If we're using the fake report, are we just coming up with hypothetical situations? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
My question is, so I'm looking at this in the survey that we're using is the college readiness. Does this
Mhm.
apply?
Yes,
still
it
apply?
does apply. It does
Okay,
apply. Your table will look different, but it does apply.
Okay, so I don't have a report yet, right? This is my first time giving the survey because I don't
Eh,
see.
Have you guys collected any data so far?
We did. They had per paper. They did it on paper, and then I inputted everything in,
Okay,
but I
perfect.
have not
So
received a report.
if the data are entered, then you can go here to your dashboard, right? This is the first thing you see when you open our platform. And then you can go here to reports, basic reports. And then
Oh,
this
okay.
menu will give you some options. Okay. This user has many options, but you're going to see something like this. I'm going to open the career one. And this is just an example. Okay. Here you're going to see your sites. I'm going to choose all of them just because it's easier to show that, and then all the groups, then load report, and that should create your pre-report. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see it. Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Okay, wonderful. So let me give you 5-7 minutes. We're gonna check in at some point, but I want you to reflect individually on your report or the fake report. Type some thoughts in the Padlet, and then we are gonna break into groups and reflect together. So 5 minutes from now, starting now. I see a lot of great reflection, content, thoughts here in the Padlet. This is great. I'm assuming that people are still typing. Could you let us know in the chat if you are done, just so we get a rough count of who is done reflecting individually? Someone is saying, I'm confused. This is great. Yes, confusion is, a key moment in learning. So we'll take that confusion and turn it into something wonderful. Just so we clarify, you are confused about the instructions or how to interact with the Padlet, or what's the confusion specifically? And yes, Jackie, there's a lot of info, a lot of information. I hope that we can share. Oh, let's see. So yes, I hope that takes you to a link that we're using to share our thoughts. Manuela, some people are saying here that they're done. We have some people still typing. Do you think we can break them out into small groups?
Yes, one moment.
Yes. Okay, so Manuel is going to break you up in small groups. And all I want you to do is to share what came up during the reflection. Okay, you can share what you put in the Padlet or whatever comes to mind. The idea is to just share the experience with the exercise. If you're confused, if you have any questions, please share them as well. If there's anything that you feel is not intuitive at all, please share it as well. And then we're going to share as a group how you feel about the experience, but also, what comes easier and what is more difficult when you interpret this particular table in our reports. So Manuela, whenever you are ready, we can break them up into small groups. Super. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had a nice interaction with someone in a different organization who works in the same field. So that's always exciting to network and share some experiences. I know it was very short, but what came up in discussions or during shareouts that was interesting to you? anything that you think you can use in your meetings with your team to reflect on this particular report or this particular section of our report. And please feel free to just raise your hand or speak up or share something in the chat.
I was in a group with Mal and Zachariah. And one of the things that I talked about is I have 3 groups that took the pretest, and my 11 to 13-year-olds, there were 3 of them in that group that just put 5s all the way down. Even though we explained to them that, this is not a test, this is something that can help you. And Zachariah reiterated the importance of, going over that with them, that the information that they put there is really going to help us as a program serve them better. So I think knowing the girls that I have, one of my takeaways is before I give the post test, I think I want to have the session before or interspersed within the times that we meet with them, just reminding them to be honest about whatever answers they put on anything that they're doing, especially when it's a survey, to be honest about the survey because it does help to improve whatever services are being offered to them.
Love it. Love it. Yes, 100%. And in case this is not obvious enough, if your young people just choose 5s straight down through the survey, you're not really going to get any information, right? Probably most of them are going to come out as advanced, but that's not real information. Great reflection. What else came up during discussions?
One thing, I'll turn my camera.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that came up in our group was I was just talking about one of the advanced categories that I saw, and one of the other girls in my group had worked with the same age category as mine, so we had really similar scores, which I thought were interesting.
Perfect. Now let me ask you this, and this is a question to the group. Why am I asking you to reflect on the activities or strategies in your program that may promote that capacity that seems most emerging? What's the reason for that question?
To hopefully get them from emerging to advanced.
Right. That would be the purpose. Yes, 100%. In our experience, working with hundreds of very diverse programs, it often happens that there's a gap between the activity you design and the goal that you want to achieve, right? And so there's often a gap between let's say, the way you structure the day, let's say, right? Or the way you think about strategies and how much growth you see. And that's because really promoting changing SEL capacities is hard. It's really hard because it doesn't depend on teaching them some content, right? You have to teach some, you have to allow for practice, you have to create opportunities for peer bonding and exercising. And it takes a lot of practice, right? A young person can nail a specific social skill during, a day or a session or a class. And then the next day, it's like they totally forgot about it, right? It takes a lot of practice and repetition to actually change SEL capacities. So one of the key things that we think you can reflect with or reflect on with your team is what's the gap that we see between our activities and the changes we want to promote. And that's, very important, specifically when you're thinking about a capacity where a lot of young people are showing an emerging level, right? Because you have a real opportunity to do something intentionally and systematic to actually promote a specific set of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and I think Bryn asked a good question in the chat. Like, are there reflection guides and resources to build specific capacities? You're talking about bringing that gap between what we want and what the program actually is. And so are there specific resources to build capacities?
Yes and no. So there are resources in our blog, and we're gonna attach those to we're gonna have a follow-up email after this session with some resources to keep working on reflecting on this specific section. What we focus on is on resources and reflection and guides so that you can implement experiences. Okay. And so for those of you who are new to Hello Insight, generally in our tools, we have two broad categories of questions. Okay. There are more, but generally we have two very broad categories. One is capacities, or the outcomes, the things that you want to change. And then we have experiences, which is the daily practice that you implement, right?
Yeah.
And so changing outcomes is hard. Now, how do you change outcomes? You change it by enacting something, right? With strategies, with your practice, with the things you say, the things you do, the things that you model, the experiences you create, right? And so what we do have is reflection guides for the experiences section, which are the evidence-based practice you can implement to promote specific capacities. Now, there isn't a link like one-to-one, like if you want to promote, let's say, social skills, it's very obvious that you want to focus on the reflection guide for promote peer bonding, right? Which is that experience that is like very, very clearly linked to social skills. Now, there are other capacities for which the experiences section is not clearly aligned one-to-one, and that's one where you have to think through, and sometimes you need some external help to really think about like what are some of the opportunities we need to create for young people to actually develop specific capacities in the context of our program and the community we serve, etc. Does that make any sense? And we're gonna attach those to a follow-up email as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Did anybody discover something when looking at the capacity with largest percent of advanced young people? Did anybody have an insight or a discovery? Like, oh, wow, yeah, we could leverage some of this in our programming, in our activities, strategies, etc.
Yeah, what I discovered is I looked at one specific group that has the most struggles with classroom management and self-management of everything. And that was their emerging, that was the highest on their emerging was self-management. But on the advanced, what surprised me is that what was highest there was their academic self-efficacy, which I was really surprised by, just considering some of the other challenges I know that they have in their school and in their school district. So that was kind of a cool surprise to see.
Love it, love it, love it. And I love how you are tying the opportunity for growth to the asset. Because usually, right, one serves the other, and we can find wonderful opportunities for action in that balance between what seems like an opportunity for growth and what seems like an asset. I know we're at time, and so let me stop here for a second and say, I love the work you put into this. I love all the thoughts I see in the Padlet. I'm going to review them all and digest them before we send you guys the follow-up email. If you have any other questions or you want to keep reflecting, feel free to just shoot me an email. My email, I'm going to put it here in the chat, is diego@helloinsight.org. Again, I've never thought that evaluation in general, but our tools in particular, are something you get like that on our first impression, right? It takes time, it takes a lot of reflection, a lot of like practicing and like just discussing with other people to really get at the insights that are most valuable. So I encourage you to bring this particular exercise to your team and try to think as a group, what are some of the activities that we could focus on that are intentionally promoting those capacities that seem most emerging? And then how can we build upon the assets that we see in the report to boost our program activities or impact in general? And with that, I want to thank you all for participating and thank you all for really thinking through this and sharing. I really love this experience. We're going to have more of these sessions over the year. If you have any ideas or feedback, hey, shoot them my way and I'll be happy to get some inspiration from you. But other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day. It was great to see you. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.